like 3 nights or 10 nights. One person still charged me, and I had to set up a GoFundMe page and pay someone else in New York who I was friends with from class, paid me enough to pay this woman so that I could stay. This was during the Super Bowl. So during the Super Bowl, I was on Webster Street, 1907 or something like that. It was the shortest house on the street. You can see it. It's on the north side of the street. You would recognize it because it doesn't match any other homes. It's the shortest home. And it happened to be the home of the son of my neighbors when I lived at 626 South 19th Street. So anyway, so finally I wound up at 2060 Apple Tree Street. Looks like a horse van, Olympia. I guess it's a moving van. They got a loud beep. So wound up on 2060 Apple Tree Street, which I just showed. Hopefully it's in the same video, in Philadelphia, because I had volunteered with a group who met at that house because the leaders of that group and the directors of that group, if you will, lived in that house. And that person, Jasper Yamalim, said, no problem, there's someone staying there now because she's having to sort of wait out a whole trial with SNAP benefits and disability. He's like, if you don't mind, if she doesn't mind and you don't mind, you can stay there. The electricity's on, the water's on, but that's it. It's completely empty. There's nothing there, And I wound up staying there for about 8 months, like right around Valentine's Day of 2018 through the end of September. I was scared the whole time. I had the George Burns type people. And Burns would be the wrong name because I actually have family members with the name Burns, so this is quite different. They have a different last name, but what George Burns does in that movie is basically what these people do. And they were telling me exactly what to do. I think they were trying to pull me off the grid, kind of, because the stalking was so bad. They don't even want to show their faces in this godforsaken city. Now, Giant might have been built because of the problem, and we're here at a Giant store that never existed until the end of the pandemic. So I stayed there. Jasper had to ultimately say, well, you guys will have to move out, like, at the end of September. He gave 30 to 60 days notice. They needed to put the house up for sale. I think he was actually a little bit nervous about my case. So it's a whole thing. I stayed in an Airbnb with the other girl who was in the house. She paid for a storage unit for 1 month. Then I stayed in a couple Airbnbs. I discovered that if you're almost homeless and you only have like $14 in the dead of winter, you still could find them. There's people who have Airbnbs for people who literally have $14 to their name, but you still have to have a laptop and or a smartphone to get into an Airbnb because you have to set up an account, a profile, get approved. It's a whole thing. But if you have very little money and need a place to stay in the dead of winter, there's probably an Airbnb still. I guess that still goes on for you. So anyway, that's, in a nutshell, it's the level of terror and fear, shaking, trembling. I'm like, I can't believe this. I can't call my mom or dad because they don't, what am I going to tell them? And they come from a whole world where it's not even close to what I experienced, It's like, what am I going to tell them? And I don't want anyone thinking that I got into some serious trouble. You know what I mean? It's that kind of thing. It's like, they're going to think this, that, and the other, and blah, blah, blah. So, anyway, that's that. Yes. Sorry. Thank you. So, that's the whole dealio from 2017 to 2018. And, I finally wound up in Florida living with my mom after visiting my dad first. I was incredibly skinny for me. I usually don't get to be that skinny. It works if you can't afford to eat and you're starving. That actually does work. Not in the long term, though, because your body does things to compensate for the loss of nutrition. But anyway, we'll talk about that later. So here we are at the Giant. I'm going to head up. It looks like... right, the escalator is operating today, so that's always a thing, is the escalator going to work today? And it's working today, so that's exciting. Okay, I'll be back. Am I getting everything here?